Good evening. Our top story tonight, Calvin Ridley has officially made his decision with the Tennessee Titans swooping in at the last second, spurning the Jacksonville Jaguars, breaking the hearts of the New England Patriots. Calvin Ridley headed to Tennessee to pair with DeAndre Hopkins, to pair with Will Levis. Gonna be beautiful in Tennessee. The AFC South starting to heat up. The Texans looking good. The Titans looking good. But it's not just that. We have so many other moves. Mike Williams was cut. Deontay Johnson was traded. Bunch of moves with the NFL free agency officially kicking off today. All of these pre-announced signings, they're all official now. All of the trades become official. It is a beautiful, beautiful day on Player Profiler today. And so we are back, and the Jacksonville Jaguars have to be kicking themselves right now. The whole point of the Calvin Ridley trade with the condition, okay, if he re-signs with the Jaguars, instead of getting the third round pick from the Jaguars, it was going to be a second. So the Jaguars waited and waited. They could have signed Calvin Ridley well ahead of free agency. And instead, they wait because it was the correct decision. It was a smart move to make. But then other teams start talking. And we had heard the Patriots were heavily in the mix for Calvin Ridley, competing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then the Titans ran Carthon, swoops in, and ends up making the deal. 4 years, $92 million for Calvin Ridley, $50 million guaranteed. And he's going to be the wide receiver 2 for Will Levis. Because I still think DeAndre Hopkins is the wide receiver 1. And we saw with the Atlanta Falcons all those years ago, Julio Jones, big body outside wide receiver who just gets open and can make contested catches as well. That's still DeAndre Hopkins. At least that was DeAndre Hopkins last year. We did not see DeAndre Hopkins take a step back. So DeAndre Hopkins still got it. So I still think he's going to be the one, which is actually good for Calvin Ridley. We saw with the Jacksonville Jaguars that he's not a true one. That against zone teams, Calvin Ridley was really good. Calvin Ridley was great at getting open and finding the hole in the zone. But when it came to man, being a true wide receiver 1, winning in press coverage, it just wasn't Calvin Ridley's game. He didn't get it done. And so Christian Kirk would feast from the slot in those games where the Jaguars faced man-heavy teams. Now, Calvin Ridley gets to be the T. Higgins to the DeAndre Hopkins, Jamar Chase comparison. It's not going to be that, but maybe the target share is. Bad news for Treylon Burks, though. Treylon Burks now becomes the wide receiver 3. He falls down in the pecking order. This is going to be a dynamic offense. We've got Ridley and Hopkins on the outside, Treylon Burks in the slot, Chigakonkwo still at tight end, Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears in the backfield. It's a good offense. It's an explosive offense, and Will Levis has the arm to make it work. I am excited about what the Tennessee Titans are building. The AFC South is competitive now. The Texans have gone all in this offseason as well. They signed Danielle Hunter to a 2-year, $49 million deal with $48 million guaranteed. But the Titans are throwing their hat in the ring as well. And Calvin Ridley did show out when he faced the Tennessee Titans last year. This is something we often see. A player beats up on a team, and then that team goes out and signs him. Calvin Ridley was over 100 yards in both of his games against the Tennessee Titans, 209 yards total, 3 touchdowns against the Tennessee Titans. And so that clearly sparked the interest of general manager Rand Carthon. Brian Callahan, now the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, gets 2 good wide receivers. This offense starting to cook. But what about the Jaguars? The Jaguars now have Gabe Davis and Calvin Ridley. Did they end up cutting Zay Jones? I remember there was a rumor that they could. I think Zay Jones did end up getting cut. I can't remember at this point. But either way, Zay Jones and Gabe Davis on the outside, just not going to get it done. So same with the Patriots. They were all in on Calvin Ridley as well. Both of these teams going to be diving into free agency. Marquise Hollywood Brown still a free agent. We were kind of waiting, or we thought at least maybe whatever happens with the loser of the Jaguars and Patriots, maybe the loser gets Hollywood Brown. Now they're both losers, and Hollywood Brown can only go to one of those teams, but we've got Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel, DJ Chark, MVS, Odell Beckham still out there, Josh Reynolds, KJ Osborne. So there's options, but once Hollywood Brown makes his decision, it's a big drop off on the free agent market. But we do have some guys that recently entered the market that we're going to be talking about in just a moment. But first, we've got a word from the Podfather.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from PlayerProfiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it. This episode is brought to you by Player Profiler, the Dynasty Deluxe package. The rankings are the best in the industry. It includes strategy mode where you can say, hey, change the rankings to be win now. Oh, change the rankings to be productive struggle. There's also a draft planner to help you strategize where you should take players because the draft planner also includes ADP. There's a trade finder where we look up on My Fantasy League and we see trades that are done, including a particular player. Then there's a trade analyzer where you can plug in draft picks, players, and we assign a lifetime value to draft picks out 5 years. The best thing about our trade analyzer, it can't be gamed with volume. And there's mock draft data to see right now what's the market for player X versus player Y, including in the fall when very few mock drafts are happening. And our Dynasty Guide, the Dynasty Dominator, would cost you $10 on Amazon, but you get it for free with Dynasty Deluxe, and you get our rookie guide for free, a $25 value. So you get all of that for $45. So I mean, it's a great deal.
And we are back. And so Calvin Ridley was the top wide receiver left available in free agency after Michael Pittman and T. Higgins were taken off the board early via the franchise tag. And then Hollywood Brown, number 2. Now we do have some competition. I still think it's Hollywood Brown, but it's a bad name to be named Michael. Mike Williams, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. He has been cut, saving $20 million for the Chargers. You hate to see it coming off the torn ACL, but the cap number was just unmanageable for the Chargers. So they start fresh. And New Orleans Saints, exact same thing. Michael Thomas is going to be released a post-June 1st cut. So the money can be spread out over the next couple years. But Michael Thomas also going to be gone from the New Orleans Saints. Bad day to be named Michael, but they're both available now. And so could the Jaguars or Patriots, whoever loses out on Marquise Hollywood Brown, could they be targeting one of the Mikes that have now become available? And I'm not surprised, in all honesty, that more teams weren't in on Deontay Johnson. If I knew I could trade a 6th round pick and a corner that I was going to cut anyways for Deontay Johnson, a bona fide wide receiver 1 in the NFL, I would do it in a heartbeat. And I know there are some conversations that maybe it's a locker room thing. Maybe Deontay Johnson, the ego, the diva behind the scenes wasn't worth it anymore. But either way, this was just a steal. The Panthers were going to be cutting Dante Jackson either way, just to save money, free up more money, spend more on other free agents. But instead, they send Dante Jackson and a 6th round pick and get Deontay Johnson and a 7th round pick in return. This is basically free. This was a brilliant decision by the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young gets his wide receiver 1 who will just get open at will on the outside. that's just what Deontay Johnson does. He's just a superb route runner, one of the best year after year at getting open in all the advanced metrics. So Deontay Johnson, Bryce Young, great decision by the Carolina Panthers, head scratcher for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was just so cheap. But now we're back to the Arthur Smith offense, the one wide receiver offense. George Pickens is Drake London. George Pickens is A.J. Brown. Hopefully they don't draft Brock Bowers, because they were at the pro day today. The Pittsburgh Steelers were at the Georgia pro day. Hopefully they don't add another skinny tight end that Arthur Smith isn't going to lose. So it's going to be Pat Freiermuth and George Pickens as the top two options in this passing game. And who else are they going to sign that is really going to scare you from taking targets away from those two? Mike Williams, Michael Thomas doesn't really scare me. There's conversations that the Steelers could trade up for a Rome Odunes or a Malik Neighbors, but we'll see. At this point, George Pickens is going to be fed the rock. But speaking of Arthur Smith, his former team went out and signed Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney going to be the perfect complement to this offense, a field stretcher who can also get open underneath and intermediate. Darnell Mooney, very underrated wide receiver. And he can take the top off, which allows Drake London to win in one-on-one situations on the outside, allows Kyle Pitts more space to operate underneath. It allows Bijan Robinson more space to operate underneath. So Darnell Mooney to the Atlanta Falcons, this is just a beautiful, beautiful fit. I absolutely love it. Darnell Mooney gets to be the field stretcher. Drake London, still the wide receiver one. Drake London is Puka Nacua in this new Rams offense, but we still don't have our Cooper Kupp in the slot. It's going to be, maybe it's Jonnu Smith. Maybe it's Jonnu Smith. But either way, great signing. There's been a lot of great moves in free agency, especially at the wide receiver position. Some other moves at the wide receiver position. Hunter Renfrow has been cut by the Raiders, and Isaiah Hodgins is expected to be a free agent as well, as he was not tendered by the New York Giants. So that's another two lower end wide receivers that borderline starters. Hunter Renfrow probably still a starter in the NFL. Isaiah Hodgins more of a wide receiver 4-5, but either way, guys that are going to be available. Devontae Parker, no longer available. He was cut by the Patriots, snapped up by the Philadelphia Eagles. They get their new Alshon Jeffrey on the outside, big body wide receiver who doesn't get open particularly well and has questions about his work ethic. Devontae Parker gets to fill that role as also the new Julio Jones. No questions about his work ethic, but just the guy on the outside who's there to take up snaps when you need him to. But we also did see the Buffalo Bills sign Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins is going to be the new Gabe Davis for Buffalo, a big body on the outside. Not really a field stretcher, but also kind of a field stretcher. He can do that. Stephon Diggs is going to be on the opposite side. We're going to have Khalil Shakur in the slot. This is going to be back to good for Stephon Diggs. I still think Stephon Diggs has it. I don't think Stephon Diggs is washed. The targets will even out. They had an offensive coordinator. They had a change on offense. You're trying to do some new things. Stephon Diggs still got it. I still think we're going to see a lot of Stephon Diggs in 2024, and I think it is going to work. But Mac Hollins is objectively a downgrade on Gabe Davis either way. But that's the option. We also saw a downgrade at quarterback. The Minnesota Vikings signed Sam Darnold to a 1-year, $10 million deal, and a lot of people are wondering, will Justin Jefferson be traded? Are the Vikings starting over completely? The answer is no. Vikings came out today and said, not happening. Nuh-uh. No way. We are not interested in trading Justin Jefferson. Those conversations are not happening. Those conversations will not happen. Justin Jefferson is here to stay. And in all honesty, it kind of makes sense because the Vikings are pretty clearly interested in trading up for a rookie quarterback. At worst, they're going to trade up to 4 with the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe even they trade up to 5 if the Cardinals stay at their pick and they take a wide receiver. But at worst, the Vikings are going to come away with J.J. McCarthy. At best, the Patriots very well could trade back. The Patriots roster is a long way from competing. Patriots need to figure things out with this new franchise. Do they take Drake May at 3? Because we keep hearing Jaden Daniels going to be the pick at 2, signing Marcus Mariota to be his backup quarterback. Makes a lot of sense. So that's where it seems to be trending for the Commanders. But that would leave Drake May available at 3, and the Vikings quarterback coach Drake May when he was in high school. Yes, that is right. Josh McCown coached Drake May in high school, and he also worked with Sam Darnold. Basically, he was a backup. He was basically a coach for Sam Darnold in his rookie season with the New York Jets. So Josh McCown knows these guys. I would love to see Drake May with the Minnesota Vikings. But either way, whoever the quarterback is, they're going to be set up for success. They're going to have Justin Jefferson on the outside. They're going to have Jordan Addison on the other outside. TJ Hawkinson, yeah, he's going to be recovering from the ACL early in the season, but the rookie's going to have TJ Hawkinson for a couple of years left in his career. Not left in his career, left on his contract, but you get what I'm saying. There's going to be options there in the passing game. They have bookend tackles in Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. Vikings are a surprisingly good ecosystem for a young quarterback, and at worst, Sam Darnold gonna sling it. Gonna be fun seeing Sam Darnold throw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions if he is the starter for the Minnesota Vikings. Much like Jameis Winston once threw 30 interceptions and 30 touchdowns. He's now going to be slinging it for the Cleveland Browns. He signs a 1-year, $4 million contract to be the backup for Deshaun Watson. Can earn up to $8.7 million in incentives. And is Deshaun Watson going to make it the whole year as starter for the Cleveland Browns? Is he going to be benched at some point for his horrendous play that we've seen over the past 2 years? Now, he did have a good game against Baltimore Ravens before his shoulder disintegrated, but how is that injury going to affect Deshaun Watson in 2024? I am not confident. I would bet on seeing Jameis Winston make some starts this year for the Cleveland Browns, and he's going to be slinging it. Mention the New England Patriots. Are they going to take Drake May if he's there at 3? Are they interested in J.J. McCarthy? Jaden Daniels, if he does slide past 2, could the Patriots take him? Whatever the case, they've got their bridge quarterback, their mentor in Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett signs a 1-year, $8 million contract, which is less than Sam Darnold. So less commitment to Jacoby Brissett. Still just a 1-year deal. But Jacoby Brissett, backup range, more of a backup quarterback contract than a starter. But the Patriots could just be going for that high pick next year. Either way, I don't know. It's smoke screen season. We will be following this as the world turns. Some other news at quarterback. We did saw Tyrod Taylor signed to be the backup quarterback to Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets. He signs a 2-year deal, which I think Tyrod Taylor is a great backup quarterback. Absolutely. If you need to turn to Tyrod Taylor in a pinch, he can win you a game. He's definitely not going to lose you a game. The issue with Tyrod Taylor is he has been fragile over the last couple of years. A lot of rib injuries that we've seen. He has missed a lot of time as a quarterback, even as a backup. Got hurt last year with the New York Giants, missed time that led to Tommy DeVito starting. So when you have Aaron Rodgers, who is now a fragile quarterback coming off the Achilles tear, is that the best decision to have your backup plan someone that is known for taking one shot to the ribs and having to miss some time? I don't know, but could Tyrod Taylor actually be the starter for the New York Jets? Could Aaron Rodgers sit out the 2024 season in a bid for politics? RFK Jr., Robert Kennedy Jr., has requested, or at least there's conversations, that he could be asking Aaron Rodgers and Jesse the Body Ventura to be his running mate, to be his vice president on an independent run. And I want to say I don't think it's going to happen. It's probably not. But would anyone be surprised if Aaron Rodgers came out and said, you know what? I'm going to sit out the 2024 NFL season. I'm going to return in 2025. I still think I have it in the NFL, but some things are bigger than football, and my country needs me right now. Couldn't you just see Aaron Rodgers pulling that out on us? Because I sure could. But either way, Tyrod Taylor is going to be his backup. And Aaron Rodgers, Tyrod Taylor, they're going to have more protection. They trade for right tackle Morgan Moses from the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of moves from the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of starters lost by the Baltimore Ravens. Right tackle Morgan Moses, he walks. Their right guard is still a free agent, Kevin Zeitler. And their left guard, John Simpson, he's also now a New York Jet. So 2 of the former Ravens starting offensive linemen, now starters for the New York Jets after this trade here today. Other news and notes around the NFL, including the Baltimore Ravens, they do sign Derrick Henry to a 2-year contract. Going to be making about $8 million per year. So he's right in line with Tony Pollard and DeAndre Swift. Behind that top tier of Saquon, Barkley, and Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry with the Baltimore Ravens. That's going to be a lot of fun because Derrick Henry is just basically Gus Edwards, but taking venom, that thing that Bane takes that makes him super strong. So Derrick Henry, I know he's getting up there in age. I know last year wasn't super effective for Derrick Henry, but he was running behind one of the worst offensive lines in football. And over the last couple of years, Derrick Henry has faced more stacked boxes than any other running back in football, obviously, because the Titans weren't a threat after they traded A.J. Brown. So you could just easily stack the box against Derrick Henry. And he still had success. He was not as efficient, but he still had success. Now he goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson going to be freezing defenders with the read option. It is just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. We did see Gus Edwards go to the Los Angeles Chargers, so he's going to reunite with Greg Roman. He's going to be vulturing touchdowns from Blake Corum in short time. Other moves at running back, we saw Zach Moss sign with the Cincinnati Bengals, and then the Bengals immediately trade Joe Mixon to the Houston Texans for a 7th-round pick. They were going to cut Joe Mixon. Instead, the Texans say, hey, we'll take him. And this is another case. Joe Mixon has been plodding along, compiling fantasy points, but the Bengals' offensive line has been terrible for years now, and Joe Mixon has still been producing. Now, he hasn't been as efficient as he was in the past, but Joe Mixon behind a dominant Texans offensive line, that could be exciting. Zach Moss with the Bengals, he's going to score fantasy points as well. Zach Moss going to be the between the tackles grinder. Looks like Chase Brown going to take a bigger role as a receiving back. He's going to be the new Samaje Perine. He's going to be the new Giovanni Bernard, where Zach Moss is going to be the between the tackles grinder. So stock could be going up for both Zach Moss and Joe Mixon, also going up for Chase Brown now that Mixon's out of the picture as well. Still waiting to see where a bunch of running backs go, really, but the top tier has all signed. Now we're waiting to hear. It sounds like the next domino to fall is going to be A.J. Dillon. He's looking at the Giants, the Colts, and the Cowboys, interviewing him. He'd be a backup with the Giants to Devin Singletary. He'd be a backup with the Colts to Jonathan Taylor. And with the Cowboys, he'd actually probably be the starter until they draft a running back, until they draft Jonathan Brooks, because we all know Jonathan Brooks' ACL tear was repaired by the Cowboys team doctor. So that is something we're all just writing in pencil that he's going to go to the Cowboys in the 2nd round. But A.J. Dillon could be a good compliment. We're also still waiting to find out what happens with J.K. Dobbins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Ezekiel Elliott, Jerick McKinnon, Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison, Dante Foreman, Kareem Hunt, who had his role with the Cleveland Browns taken by Nyheim Hines. Boston Scott is flirting with the New York Giants, who he scores a touchdown against every single time. Damian Harris and Rashad Penny, some of the other names still available in free agency, but it has been a lot of fun. Free agency so far has just been electric. There have been so many moves. I should probably check my phone to make sure. Oh, yep. Bobby Wagner to the Washington Commanders on a 1-year deal worth up to $8.5 million. That might seem like a blockbuster trade or blockbuster signing, but Bobby Wagner, even though he was an all-pro last year, he wasn't playing at an all-pro level. That's my thoughts on Bobby Wagner to the Commanders. So fine move. It's up to $8.5 million. Clearly, the rest of the NFL saw, hey, Bobby Wagner did drop off. He was a liability in coverage, even if he was compiling tackles in the run game. But either way, that looks like it's the last piece of information that we've got breaking to us from our friends over on Twitter. We've got Rappaport, who has been really carrying. Adam Schefter has rebounded the last couple of days, but it was a strong start for Ian Rappaport. But if you want to keep up to date with all of the news on playerprofiler.com, you head to the website, type in playerprofiler.com/news, and you'll see our news desk. You'll see all of these articles being written about all these players, about all these signings, about all of these moves, all of these trades, all of these cuts. So make sure you go out and check out playerprofiler.com/news. You can also see if you're looking for news on a specific player, like you saw Mike Gesicki sign with the Cincinnati Bengals earlier today for a 1 year, $2.5 million. Actually, I think that was yesterday, but either way, go and type in Mike Gesicki, and that news will be on his player page. Player Profiler is better than ever. Player Profiler is dominating the offseason. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.